I was very successful as a child, but I lost it all and now I have nothing. When I was 14, I was a pretty big YouTuber. I had around 1.8 million subscribers. My channel was blowing up and I was making a lot of money. Some months, over $50,000. It was my dream and I was actually living it. I had made tons of close friends from YouTube. I was well known in the game I played, and for the first time in my life, I was genuinely happy. But the thing is, I never really saw the money. My narcissistic mom was in control of all of it. She told me I was too young to have a bank account and that she had to take care of it for me. She gave me around $1,000 a month, which sounds like a lot for a 14-year-old, but when you're making 50 times that, turns out instead of saving it for my future like she promised, she was spending most of it. When I turned 15, things started falling apart. My mental health completely deteriorated. I developed anorexia and ended up hospitalized. My channel became impossible to keep up with. I stopped posting for almost a year and everything I built just started to disappear. Then, when I finally wanted to come back, I made this stupid decision that basically ruined any chance of reviving my channel. I tried downloading Adobe software for free. Yeah, stupid, I know. Got hacked and the hacker posted some graphic content on my channel. I got permanently banned and instead of contacting YouTube right away, I just gave up. I was so mentally checked out that I didn't even care at the time and told myself I would deal with it later. When I finally tried to appeal months later, YouTube denied me. I tried everything I possibly could to get my channel back and nothing worked. My mom had spent most of the money, but she left me around $100,000. I had to literally beg her for over a year to give it to me. But like an idiot, I blew it. Car, addictions, very bad decisions. It turned out my mom was right all along. When I was 19, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and started drinking a lot. Now I'm in my 20s, completely broke, completely alone, and I feel like a loser. I know I'm stupid. I know I made horrible choices, but please don't judge me too harshly. I wasn't in my right mind, and at the time, I didn't care about my future because I wished I was dead. I couldn't see past the moment I was in, and I just let everything fall apart. I think about my past a lot, how much potential I had, how I literally had it all at 14, and how I just let it slip away. I don't know how to move on from it. I peaked as a teenager and now I have nothing. If anyone's ever recovered from throwing their life away, I'd really love to hear how, because right now I don't see a way forward. People in the ER got mad because a guy with a ruptured spleen skipped the line. I work as a nurse in the emergency department, which, if you've never been in one, is a beautiful house. Fact is a beautiful chaos factory full of pain, drama, and at least one person every night who thinks emergency means I had a weird sneeze 8 days ago and VIP MD said I might die. Anyway, this shaved highlight was a man brought in by ambulance after a serious car accident. He had abnormal trauma, signs of internal bleeding, and a crushed spleen. This is not a wait patiently situation. He needed immediate intervention and transfer to a trauma center. So we did what we do. We moved him ahead of the queue, stabilized him, and got him where he needed to go. Cue multiple people in the waiting room getting mad. It's funny because we have the room with several copies of this, and I doubt any of those brutes ever paid attention to it. One woman actually stood up and said, "Excuse me, we have been waiting for 2 hours and he just got here." I kid you not, she was here for a mosquito bite. Another guy's shoulder pain from a fall like 2 weeks ago, I think, starts loudly talking to others about how unfair this system is. We are trying to literally keep a man alive, and I'm standing there listening to someone complain because their back's been kinda sore since Tuesday. This isn't Starbucks. There's no line. It's not first come, first served. It's who might die first. And if you're mad because you got leapfrogged by a patient who came in via ambulance with a shredded organ, maybe ER isn't the place for your mild shoulder vibes. Some days I think we should just hang a giant sign that says, "You don't want to go next." Students pranked me. I had the last laugh. I spent about 10 years teaching high school humanities at a small private school. For my first 2 years, I didn't have a classroom, just a small office. I would bring what I needed for each class on a card and go from room to room, depending on which teacher had a prep at any given time. This was incredibly inconvenient, and not being the most organized of teachers to begin with made things difficult to keep track of. They were a group of 11th grade boys who decided to make things a little more difficult for me. They were good kids. We got along well. I coached several of them on the school's soccer team, but they decided that since my office would often be empty, it was a great place to prank. It was never anything too serious, things falling over when I opened the door or things disappearing for a day and then turning up in a different place the next day. Nothing was ever damaged, and I could never prove who it was, even though I knew. My school had mandatory final exams in each academic course. I didn't really think they were necessary, so I would generally make them pretty easy with a lot of preparation. I would give out study sheets and play review games for a couple of weeks before the test, and there was no reason the students wouldn't do well on them. I had approval of admin to do this, as they weren't particularly fond of the final exam rule either. It was a school board policy. A few nights before the offending boys had their exam, I had a brainwave. I created a second exam. Gone were the multiple choices questions and obvious things from the review sheets. In their place came detailed questions about concepts that were briefly mentioned in class. Essay question after essay question. Ambiguous questions with no clear answers. Definitions of words that there was no way they knew. It took a couple of hours, but I laughed the whole time. When the test came, I had the special exams at the bottom of the pile and handed them out to each of the 4 or 5 boys. I told my vice principal what was happening, and he insisted on being present. I started the timer and watched as the boys flipped over their papers. It was all I could do to keep a straight face. Eyes went wide, heads were shaking, panic was setting in, especially as they saw all the classmates flying through their exams. One of the boys raised their hand. "Sorry, no more questions during the final. You should be prepared based on your study sheets." I let them go for about 5 or 10 minutes of terror before I gathered the fake tests and gave them the real ones. They all passed with flying colors and never pranked my office again. It was glorious. This is the end of the stories. Share your opinion about the stories in the comments. Subscribe and see you in the next video.